Thank you. I see that it's 1 p.m. and we will call to order the Finance Committee for Wednesday, September 4th. May we have a roll call, please?
Not a problem. Chairperson Forte,
Present.
Commissioner Einhauser,
I'm present.
and Commissioner Coleman.
Present, Detroit, Michigan.
Right.
Thank
Madam
you, Donald.
Chair, you're welcome.
The first item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, and I
Yes.
support, thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next item we have is the approval of the August 7th, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as presented. Support.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. It's been moved and properly supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next, we have public participation. Will we have someone there to make an announcement for us?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Brian Peckinpah, Public Affairs Director for DWSD, and I'll make the Zoom meeting public comment instructions. To make a comment, To make a comment, please raise your hand by using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. After your name is called, IT will give you permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is the microphone icon if you're online on a computer or iPad, or *6 if you are calling in. As a reminder, you will have a limit of 3 minutes to make your comment. There will be a timer indicating your remaining time. If you're online to make a comment, we kindly request you fill out the comment card link that's located in the chat. By filling out that card, we will have your contact information to follow up appropriately. If you are unable to click the link, please let us know, and a phone number will be provided to you to call to provide the needed information. You will only be called upon once the chair closes public comment for this committee. There will be no other comments from the public, and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your attention. And Madam Chair, I'll just look at the raised hands here. We have 2 raised hands, Madam Chair. The first person is Gray Lepley. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Gray Lepley.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ms. Lepley. You can proceed.
Okay, I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Yeah, let me step in here, please.
Yes.
Gray is from PFMC, has a presentation letter. It's not a public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so our first public commenter is Beulah Walker. Beulah Walker.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. Can I be heard?
We can hear you very clearly.
I just wanted to say hello, and I'm joining and I'm watching. It's not many days that I'm available in the daytime, but we're on night shift in my world in the construction industry. So I just want to know, I just want our honorable body to let them know that I'm here watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Do we have other?
Madam Chair, the next person is Miko Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Peckinpah. Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, great. My name is D'Amico Williams. I'm the Chief Executive Director of Hydrate Detroit. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak. I have some questions specific of this Finance Committee, and hopefully if we can get the answers of how much money this year has the water shutoffs generated in revenue for DWSD? How many people commercially have paid their water bills in full since the announcement as of August 2023 that water shutoffs will be conducted? How many of those have paid? And also, how many persons, residential customers, have zeroed out their water bills since getting on the payment assistance programs such as Lifeline or the 1030/50 Easy Pay program? Reason these questions are so important is because, you know, when we hear Mr. Rahman tell us that the DWSD revenues are low, water collections are low, it kind of wonder the money has collected. We don't ever hear anything about that, how many monies have been collected, but also have went into settling the bad debt expense. The bad debt expense is mostly by commercial. Residential customers don't have the same protections for deferments and arrangements, meaning that, you know, they're not going to pay as frequent as commercials would. So it's just, you know, a question to know where we are so that we can stop this epidemic and get back to good news again, get back to capital improvement. And I mean, people are trying to pay their bills. No one's refusing, absolutely not. And I'm very happy that the Easy Pay program has finally come into fruition. That should have happened in 2014, and we wouldn't be in this situation. There has to be something else that is boggling down this department, and it's not from water bill payments. So that's my comments as of right now. All of this will be in writing at a later date to ask certain questions. Hopefully we can get the answers to. And I thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We will now close public participation. And we'll move now into communications. And the first item we have is 6A, 2024-169, receipt of correspondence. Is there a motion?
I move that we receive and file the listed correspondence.
Support.
Been moved and properly supported. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has been approved. The next item is item B, 2024-183, receipt of correspondence. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we receive correction to item number 2024. I move that we receive correspondence.
Support.
Been moved and properly supported. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved.
Commissioners, I do want to pause for a second. I want Marquesha Welsh to speak on item 2024-183 just for a bit.
Thank you. Ms. Welch.
Good afternoon. My apologies. I put my camera on just to notify that. The receive of correspondence for 24-183 is an item correction letter explaining a previous submitted contract that was approved by the Finance Committee and the consent agenda for an amendment that was done to an incorrect contract. The contract provided an older model of our metering technology equipment. And so the corrected contract has been added to September's agenda for approval, but I wanted to put memorandum out there so that you all are aware of the incorrect document that came before you so that we can later have a motion to rescind it and then the approval of the corrected one.
Thank you. Are there any questions on Ms. Welch's comments? I think we all had some prior notification of this correction that we'll see in September with a motion to rescind the prior action. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved. Thank you. Item 7 is unfinished business. We have none. But in item 8, we do have some new business items. 2024-186 is the first one. And that is the June 30th year-to-date cash and investment treasury review.
Yeah,
I know that Mr. Rahman is probably the sponsor here.
yeah. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We have today the year-end, June 30th, 2024, year-to-date cash and investment review from a treasury standpoint. Making this presentation will be Gray Laplace. Is the Senior Director at PFM Asset Management, who does our investment management for GovMig. So she's here to make that presentation, and I'll introduce you to Gray. Here's she.
Hi, Istaker. Hi, everybody else. Nice to see you all. Hope you're all doing well. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, so you can see my presentation.
Thank you.
Let me make sure I can do that. Let me know if you can see that.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So a few things. I know last time that you all met, you met with Brian Quinn. He has since retired and I have taken over his position. So I am now really the liaison between GovMic and PFM Asset Management and the overall Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. And all of Michigan, actually all of our Michigan clients. So we have a long storied history with all of you. And I wanted to give you a brief update on the market first. Then I'm going to get into what we've been doing in the portfolios. And then finally talk about what are the next steps. If at any point anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I cannot see if anyone's raising a hand, so feel free to just interrupt if that's helpful. So in terms of the current economic environment, what I have here is as of June 30th. If you've been paying attention to the news at all, you will notice that there has been a lot more going on more recently than June 30th. There's a lot changed in the past few months here. So when we put this together and when these numbers were put together, essentially what we were expecting was that we were going to see 1, maybe 2 rate cuts from the Fed by the end of the year. That has since changed pretty precipitously, and I'll get into that in a moment. One of the reasons behind that expectation as of June was that we continued to see strong inflation numbers, meaning stronger than expected and stronger than wanted, above that 2% target that the Fed has. We continue to see strong employment numbers, strong in a good way in this sense, in that we continue to see unemployment be pretty low. And resilient consumer spending. So people continuing to spend despite the fact that to a certain extent, some of their savings have mostly been drawn down as a result of the fiscal stimulus measures we saw during COVID. So as a result, during this quarter alone, what we saw from March to June was that Treasury yields actually rose across the board, and I'll show you that in a moment. But the yield curve continues to be inverted, and it's still that way today. But again, I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to home as we continue on here. So here is the yield curve, gives you a sense over the quarter from March to June what happened. So the dotted line is March 31st numbers, and you can see that June numbers were slightly higher, and that's because there was an expectation that we wouldn't see as many rate cuts. The yield curve prices in any expected rate cuts or rate changes that the Fed might make or that generally are expected to happen as we move forward. And so what we've seen over the past few months since June is a pretty sharp change in this picture of the yield curve. So we're still in an inverted yield curve, meaning that the front end of the curve is higher than the longer end of the curve. When we're talking about investments specifically for DWSD, we are looking really at that 0 to about 3-year mark. And that's really on the front left of this page here. So the reason we continue to see rates really high on the front end is because the Fed has set the overnight rate at 525 to 550 as a result of all of the really high inflation that we saw after COVID. They raised rates from 0 or near 0 to 525 or 550. Expectation now is that we're actually probably going to see, instead of that one that we were anticipating as of June, we may see as many as 4 rate cuts by the end of the year. Now, if you pay attention to this, you'll know that there's only 3 Fed meetings by the end of the year. So how are we going to do 4 rate cuts with only 3 Fed meetings? That would mean that at some point during those 3 Fed meetings, the market is expecting that we will see more than a 25 basis point move down, meaning more than 0.25% cut down from where we are currently. So if I were to show you what the actual rate environment looks like today, what you would see is the 2-year is really closer to 385 or so. The 5-year is closer to 365. So a pretty significant change, as I mentioned. We're really at the lowest levels that we've been for quite some time. Historically, however, we're still in a very attractive space because if you recall, during COVID and then for the entirety of the 2010s, really, we were in a 0 interest rate environment. And so there was not very much benefit to investing any further out the curve, or there wasn't a ton of extra yield to be gotten from the different types of sectors that are permitted by DWSD's investment policy. I'll explain how this all ties into what we're doing currently in a few minutes. But I wanted to talk about inflation really briefly. What we have here is June 2024's inflation numbers coming down to 3%. This is the Consumer Price Index, so CPI, the one that you probably hear the most about in the news. The most recent reading actually came in at 2.9%, so slightly below this, and it continues to abate. So we've gone pretty significantly down from the 9.1% that we saw in June of 2022, now to below 3%. The Fed has said that even though their target is 2% inflation, that they're not going to wait until we get to that 2% before they start to move rates. And so that's part of the reason that the market is expecting we're going to see a rate cut coming up shortly. On the unemployment front, if you can see this is a page that shows the unemployment rate on the left-hand side, which had gotten as low as 3.4% not too long ago. Now it's up to 4.3%. Many market participants looked at this and said, this is a big problem, and rates fell pretty significantly as a result of this reading that came in, at the beginning of August. We're going to get the most recent jobs report this Friday. So this is the most recent data. We just don't have information until 2 days from now when we will get an updated jobs report. So 4.3% historically, again, for context, is not bad. When you think about what full employment used to be defined as, it was really 5% or below. And so 4.3%, while it has increased from the 3.4% at the lowest point that we saw recently, is still not a bad number. When we look on the right-hand side, we have what's called the labor force participation rate. This is the amount of people that are either looking for work or currently working in the job force. So they're people that are actually looking for work or working. That means that they're participating in the labor market in general here in the US. And that has actually continued to rise to a certain extent. So part of the reason we saw this rise in the unemployment rate on the left is because the labor force participation rate also rose. It's actually above the CBO forecast potential. That is a potential based on what expectations are going on with demographic shifts, people retiring, et cetera. So the expectation, especially with baby boomers retiring and leaving the labor force, is that that's going to continue to go down pretty significantly. But again, we're above that level right now in terms of the labor force participation rate. We have not gotten back to pre-COVID levels, as you can see, but we are still in a pretty good place with that. One of the reasons it's really important to look at these two metrics, inflation and unemployment, is because that's the Fed's dual mandate, is to focus on both of those. Inflation in terms of price stability. They don't want inflation to be too high, of course. They don't want it to be too low as well. They want it to be really, again, in that 2% sweet spot. Unemployment, on the other hand, they want full employment. So they don't want the economy to be in a situation where we're going into a recession or the labor market is cooling too much. And we're getting to a place now, as Fed Chair Jay Powell has recently said, that they really want to focus more on the unemployment picture and not allow that to get out of control in any sort of way. Again, there are some warning signs, but from a historical perspective, these numbers are not terrible. So if we get into the actual portfolio review, I talked about where we're investing on your behalf, again, in that 0 to 3 year space. And I'll give you a kind of brief overview of the investment allocations across the board with the different institutions that you invest with. You can see them on the left-hand side, but they're also shown on the right-hand side in that table there. So across the board, US Bank, JP Morgan, First Independence Bank, and Comerica have significant balances, but then GovMIC, which is the LGIP, Local Government Investment Pool managed by PFM Asset Management, has about $164 million worth invested in it. Some of that is in the LGIP, so that's an overnight, kind of like a money market fund. It's an overnight LGIP, so you can get money in and out immediately. Or very quickly, and is very liquid, and it's AAA rated, as you can see on the right-hand side. But some of it's also in securities, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. And that shows some of the progress that we've made over the past year in terms of the investment program for DWSD. So again, the majority are held in overnight bank deposits or the local government investment pool, so very, very liquid. High yielding right now for the most part because of the fact that we are in this interest rate environment where the front end of the curve is so high in that 525 to 550 range. And current investment yields across the board are up to as much as 553, depending on where they've been invested. If we move into fund allocations, you can see the different types of different types of portfolios that are that make up that amount that we saw on the previous page. Construction funds make up a very large portion. They're both in orange and kind of a darker orange brown color. So water construction fund at 63 million, sewer construction fund at 45 million or so. Then we have in the I&E funds as well, sewer and water, those are in red and blue respectively. O&M funds, water retainage, and a few other funds as well. So just to give you some background on the construction funds, one of the reasons that those continue to be so high, those balances continue to be so high, and Istakir can give a little bit more color on this if he wants to chime in as well, is because of the fact that there have been other sources that have been used to fund some of these projects recently. And so the bond funds have been outstanding and are continuing to be there as a way to continue to fund those projects as we move into the future. Monthly interest earnings on the right-hand side, you can see the different, where those different funds have come from. Obviously, quite a bit of fund earnings on a regular basis, and that's because of the fact that we continue to see balances be reasonably high, as well as interest rates being extremely high. This is a very different picture than what you saw last year and the year before in terms of those interest earnings, because interest rates continue to be in that 5% range on the front end of the curve. The GovMIC, the big spike you see in April and May is really just a result of balances at that point being higher than they had been previously, but they have since come down. So last thing for this section that I wanted to focus on is the sewer I&E. And this is a part of the program that we've really developed to a different extent than some of the other funds. The I&Es, both sewer I&E and water I&E, we were able to put together with Istakir and Nicole's help a good cash flow analysis to determine how much money could actually be invested out a little bit further than those overnight funds, than just sticking it in GovMIC, which is, again, that overnight liquidity vehicle. And so what we were able to do was really develop a program that is in that 1 to 3 or 0 to 3 year area of the curve. So when you look down at the duration distribution in the bottom right, you can see there is quite a bit in overnight funds still, but we do have funds going out to about 3 years across the board. Sector allocation is quite diverse. I know there's 63% in treasuries, and so you may say, well, that's not a ton of diversification. But when you look at the other sectors right now, for instance, agency mortgage-backed securities, that's something that we're going to continue to focus on as we move forward and have better sense of the inflows and outflows in this account. Supranationals, those are securities such as the World Bank. So think of things like that, or Inter-American Development Bank. Those types of securities are similar to federal agencies such as Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, have AAA ratings as well. So they're very highly rated and very liquid. Commercial paper in yellow is short-term corporate debt. So instead of a 5-year Microsoft note, for instance, Microsoft may issue short-term debt to meet some short-term needs that they have. So commercial paper is in that 0 to 9 month space, and that is permitted by the policy, as are all of the rest of these types of securities that are shown here. The average yield at cost is about 502, which is very high, and that's reflective of when we were able to purchase these securities. The average yield at market, however, is 499, so very much in line, and that's because security rates continue to be high at the time when we put this together. Since then, what you're going to see is that the average yield at cost has remained high because it's basically when we've purchased all these different securities over time. But the yield at market is really where could we reconstitute this portfolio if we were to do that today? And because rates have fallen, this will have gone down as well. What that means is that difference between the yield at cost and the yield at market really gives you a sense of if there are unrealized losses or unrealized gains in the portfolio. With a yield at cost higher than the yield at market, that means there's unrealized gains in the portfolio. That if we were to liquidate securities, you would have gains as a result of those. Any questions so far before I get to the last section, which is really kind of the progress and showing you where we came from and where we are now? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to continue on. So portfolio update, I wanted to take a little quick journey back in time. When Brian last presented to you last year, he talked about our cash flow model, which really gives us a sense of where we can put money to work that's potentially more liquid than it needs to be. If there's excess liquidity, there's a sense that you could potentially take some of that money, invest it out longer, and at reasonable yields, if there are good yields at that time, to have more consistent interest rate earnings and things of that nature. So this is a cash flow model, kind of an explanation of how our cash flow model works. We did this work with Nicole and with Istaker, and again, we're able to determine that there are core balances in some of these funds. Again, this is just for your edification, so feel free to look through this, but this gives you a sense of where we would be investing those types of funds. So the investment strategy recommendations as of last year were to look at that consistent core, carve that out, and see if we could invest further out on the yield curve because we expected rates to fall. With rates falling on the front end of the curve, anything that's in liquidity is likely to come down. So those interest rate earnings are likely to come down. If you can invest further out the curve in that 1 to 3, 0 to 3 space and lock in some of those rates today, you're going to be in a better place as rates start to fall on the front end of the curve. That also gets into the extension of duration, same situation there, right? Going further out instead of being all liquid and having all of your eggs in one basket. Diversification, when you have everything in bank deposits and the LGIP, again, there's not a ton of diversification happening, whereas now that we're investing further out in other portfolio types, other sectors, we have more diversification at our fingertips. We have the commercial paper I talked about before, federal agencies, supranationals, and treasuries that we can invest in. And then finally, active management. We at PFMAM are not set it and forget it type investment advisors. We go through and determine, is there relative value at any one point in time that we can take some amount from the commercial paper holdings and put it into agency mortgage-backed securities, or take some from supranationals and put it into agencies instead. We do that calculus on a regular basis and are making those changes, fine-tuning the portfolio as we go forward. So where are we today? This gives you a sense as to what the steps that were taken and where we are now. We went through an investment program review. We did that cash flow analysis at the beginning of the year, as I talked about. We reviewed the investment policy to make sure that everything is in compliance with PA 20, Public Act 20, and GFOA best practices. And then we looked at portfolio segmentation, really being able to put some money longer term and keep some money liquid. We did put that strategy into place in the sewer INE and the water INE, and we implemented that. And now we're in the state of continual review of strategy. One of the things that's been happening recently is that there's been a divergence between when money has been coming in for state aid versus when money needs to go out. And so we have had to do some sales in the portfolio in order to make those payments possible. That's worked out very well. We've had a lot of communication between Istaker, Nicole, myself, and the portfolio manager to make those funds available. But as we get further into this program, we expect that that's going to be better fine-tuned, so we don't have to necessarily sell securities on a regular basis to make those funds available. So that's what I have prepared. I have, of course, some fund disclosure pages for you all to look at and read. But if no one has any questions, I'm happy to be done. But if you do have any questions, happy to discuss as well.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes,
A
Commissioner?
couple of questions. Yes, a couple of questions if I can. I believe, have we given you full discretion to make changes between the categories that you've described to us, or is there some kind of internal review before you do that?
You mean on these different types of portfolios that we have here?
Yes.
We have, yes. So we don't have full discretion to invest all of these. We only have full discretion to invest when it's appropriate, the water INE and the sewer INE at this point. Any other changes, if we were to invest the construction funds, which there might be some benefit to doing that at this point because of where interest rates are going, those types of things would need to be a discussion between all of us. Now, that being said, we continue to have these discussions on a regular basis. So this is not something where I am going to go out or the portfolio manager is just going to go out and do something. If we expect that there's going to be funds that are needed, or Vistaker and Nicole tell us that funds are going to be needed in short order, we're making those funds available. We're not, just doing whatever we want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And in terms of management fees, is there a schedule of fees, and do the fees vary with the size of the assets under management?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. I do not have that at my fingertips right now, but we can provide that for you. There is a contract in place, and yes, it's a tiered fee schedule in that more funds coming in mean a lower fee for you all. What that also is, it's an assets under management type fee. So it's a percentage of those assets under management. It is not a per trade commission type fee. So that's how it's set up.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Sure.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner?
just curious on the sector on the water construction bond. Are we allowed to even invest that money since it is coming out of a bond?
Yes, actually. So it's interesting. Now, there's different ways of looking at this, but essentially what you are beholden to for investment of construction funds is whatever is in the bond official statement. So the official statement will have an entire section that says these proceeds can be invested in A, B, C, D. That's typically in line with Public Act 20 and what's currently available to be invested just generally with all of your funds. I have seen in the past, not with Detroit Water and Sewerage Department, but with other clients, that their bond indentures, their bond official statements are a little bit more narrow in focus because they want those funds obviously to be very safe, not that they don't want their other funds to be safe. But in terms of the water construction fund, the sewer construction fund, those are able to invest in, here I'll show you, all of the different sectors that are shown on the right-hand side at the top there.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions, commissioners?
I have a comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the strategies that we're thinking about using is you saw on the previous slide that there was $63 million in water construction bond dollars. We have a inquiry into our bond council, as well as the Great Lakes Water Authority bond council, DICOMA, as to whether or not we can shift some of those resources over into our lead service line program, which is running short of money. Our first option always is to go to the state and ask them, is there any, by infrastructure law, ARPA dollars, any other funding available that we could have access to, but rather than lose our contractors because we're just going faster than we anticipated we'd be able to go, plan B, if you will, it would be to come back to the board and ask to move approximately $30 million of those funds over into the lead service line program so we can keep the contractors working throughout the winter or until we can receive additional dollars from state funding. So I'm just throwing it out there that that's what we're thinking about doing. We certainly come back to the board. We certainly are going to get the sign off of both our bond council as well as Glewood's bond council, because we, as you know, we bond through Glewood, so they'd have to approve this. And I've already had some preliminary conversations with them, and we'd also talk it over with PFM. But that's what we're thinking, and it should come up in the next 30 days, if in fact we need to do that. So just keeping you up to date.
Yeah, thanks, Director Brown. I just want to clarify, would that be like a temporary transfer, the lead service replacement, or would that be more permanent? What are you thinking?
I think it would be more permanent. It's all going to depend on whether or not, a lot of the money that the state has access to for lead service lines has been given to other utilities. And it has a deadline that it has to be spent by a certain date. If the state can't spend that money, they're going to encumber it and then go to the cities, which is the city of Detroit, that has the capacity to spend it within the deadlines so that they don't have to give it back. So we fully anticipate that at some point they're going to come to us and say, we need you to take this additional money. And this is just a matter of timing. We don't want our contractors to run out of money because they would leave and go to other cities, especially when you look at the fact that we're only paying $9,300 per line to have it removed. The city of Chicago is paying more than $20,000 per line. So if we run out of money, certainly contractors will look for cities that are paying a higher rate and to keep their workers working. We're not going to let that happen. We would ask to shift bond funds. And as has been indicated earlier in the presentation, I'm not going to say we're having a problem spending bond dollars, but this is a great position to be in, where we're getting all of this additional money from the federal government, from the Biden and Harris administration, as well as from the Whitmer administration. And we want to spend that first before spending the bond dollars. But in this case, we spent more than $90 million or we would have spent more than $90 million on lead service line replacement that we got from the state of Michigan. And we're simply saying, if you have another $100 million, we could use that right now. But if it takes time for you to get it to us, we're going to, in the interim, use bond funding.
Thank you, Director Brown. Thanks for that update. While we were talking about bond funds, I did have another question related to the investments. And that was, do we ever have, as a result of any funds that are, represent bond funds, any arbitrage concerns when we're investing?
Great question. So because these funds are invested in GovMIC, which is that LGIP I was telling you about earlier, which PFMAM is the investment advisor for, our arbitrage rebate services are free as a result of that. So they are included in that GovMIC investment. So what we do is we provide updates to arbitrage rebate compliance needs, any sort of liabilities, all of that paperwork, any of that is all included in those services. So that comes out on a regular basis, and that is sent over to the department.
So if I may add, Madam Chair, I have had conversation with our bond counsel regarding this arbitrage issue, where obviously we are earning a little bit more than what we are paying to our bondholders. So it raises the question of arbitrage. But his position is, because of the circumstances over the last couple of years, that federal government is providing so much funding through ARPA dollars, infrastructure dollars, that we got limited resources. So, but they also have a deadline by which we have to spend the money. So he believes that IRS will be understanding of that fact, that we are unable to spend the bond dollars because our focus has shifted towards these infrastructure dollars, ARPA dollars that we need to spend by a certain date. And his initial thought is our IRS would be lenient in terms of any arbitrage issue that might come up. Or they might actually, they might actually give an extension of time or something.
Thank you both for those additional comments. Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you, and we'll continue on down our agenda.
Thank you, Gray.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move now to item 2024-177, and that's the external auditor review. And I'll turn it over to Istakur to.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is our external audit review. This is again that time of the year when the financial statement audit for fiscal year 2024 is beginning. We have Timothy Andrew from Plant Moran. He's a partner in the public accounting and consulting firm Plant Moran. The audit is the initial stage of getting started, or some field work has been completed. And Tim is going to give us a little overview of where we stand in terms of starting the audit and the process involved. Tim?
Okay, Mr. Kerr, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate you allowing me to speak to you for a few minutes on the financial statement audit for the year ended June 30, 2024. And really, more or less, this is just to give you a heads up that we are in the planning phase of the audit. As part of the audit process, we are required to have certain communications with you as the governing body. And in this case, we do that in the form of a letter that I can see is up on screen now. It should be included in your agenda packet today. So I won't go through all of the details of this, but I will use it as a guide. So just to maybe update you on where we're at now. So we have had our planning meetings with Istakur and the team. We were able to back last month do some of the interim testing. And so I think we're in a pretty good spot now when we officially start the year-end field work later this month. On page 2 of the letter, we do disclose what the auditing standards call significant risks of misstatement. And I point this out just to let you know that this does not mean that we anticipate issues or we have known issues. As part of the planning process, we have to look at your financial statements and identify where a misstatement could occur. And so we generally look at things like, such as revenue that are just large volume of transactions, large dollar amounts, anything that involves a significant estimate, such as pension costs, such as the general claims liability. And then we communicate those to you that these are areas that we'll be paying special attention to. And then we have our audit approach as it relates to these items. And then really rounding out the letter is just soliciting feedback from you. And again, we officially start the audit later this month. It typically will go into December, so it's a multiple month effort. So if you ever have any questions, any concerns, my contact information is at the bottom of the letter, and we're always happy to answer your call and maybe tailor our approach to make sure that we answer those questions or concerns. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have today.
Thank you, Tim. I did have one question. Is there any area of particular focus that's a little bit different than what you had last year?
So as part of the process, and really this is as we get into it and we start receiving materials, we do have to have what we call unpredictable procedures. And so, yes, there will be things that that we will be doing a bit different. We don't have those identified quite yet, but I would think in the coming weeks as the information and materials come in and we, finalize the planning, we'll have to identify at least one, surprise procedure, unpredictable procedure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, well, I think
Madam Chair.
yes, Commissioner.
It's an observation and a comment, and I'm sure this is already on Plant Moran's radar, as it is on everybody's radar these days. We would appreciate in your review, you review any potential weaknesses with regard to what happened with the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy. What kind of safeguards do we have in place, and are they adequate to make sure what happened there simply cannot happen here?
Okay.
I think Tim, you acknowledged that, I think.
Yeah, acknowledge. And as part of the audit, we do look at especially so one of the things I did not mention is there are a couple new auditing standards in place, and one of those is related to having auditors take a deeper dive and obtaining a deeper understanding on internal controls. And so we'll have new questions, new questionnaires that Mr. and Hal will be helping us with. And so we'll look at the manual processes, the controls, just to make sure that we're comfortable that those controls are in place.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 2024-170. And
Thank you.
commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Madam Chair, I'd like to thank Tim.
Oh, sure.
For giving the update to the committee. Also, this is our June year end, Madam Chair, Commissioners. We will not have a financial review for the month of June because it's in the process of being audited. So in this meeting, we have no financial review, monthly financial review. We will continue in the future, but this month, there is none. Just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. I hadn't looked further down on the agenda to see if there was one, but thank you for alerting us that there will not be a June review.
Correct. Not at this time.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Okay, Commissioners, we'll go to item C, 2024-170.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Coleman.
I'd like to recommend to the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department authorize directors to approve DWSD contract number 6005838 with Mission Forward of Dearborn for 4 parts, repairs, and maintenance service for a total contract amount not to exceed $1 million and a term of 5 years. This also authorized directors to take such other actions as may be needed to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. Ms. Welch.
Good afternoon again. This contract will support DWSD's fleet division in an effort to continue to provide quality vehicle services to our customers, both internally and externally. This vendor will provide service work, warranty work, and parts for DWSD vehicles when the demand for repairs exceed business internal service level agreements. It will also aid in reducing vehicle downtime. And so bids were published by the procurement division for 30 days. We did receive 3 responsive bids, and Mission Forward of Dearborn was the lowest bidder So at this time, procurement is recommending to the Finance Committee for approval and movement to full board.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved. We'll move on to item D, 2024-171. Commissioners,
Madam Chair.
yes.
Oh, wait, I have it here. I move that the Finance Committee recommend to the Board of Water Commissioners the approval of DWSD contract number 6006566 with ETNA Supply Company and contract number 6006565 with Fergan Waterworks for the purchase of as-needed gatebox parts of various sizes for a total combined contract not to exceed $288,177 for a term of 1 year, and authorize the director to take any other appropriate action.
Support.
It's been moved and properly supported. Ms. Welch?
Hi, these are two warehouse replenishment contracts that provide gate box parts. These parts are used as access points to gate valves when the field crews are out doing repair work. It enables them to be able to turn water on and off to complete the repair jobs. Procurement published bids for advertisement for 22 days. We did receive 3 bids, and Aetna and Ferguson were the apparent lowest equalized bidders. So we awarded to both, or recommending to award to both based on the lowest line item. Aetna is a Detroit-based business, and procurement at this time is recommending to the Finance Committee for full approval and movement to award.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved, and we'll move on to item E, 2024-172. Commissioners,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Coleman,
I'd like to make a recommendation to the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department to authorize directors to approve DWSD contract number 6006577 with AECom Great Lakes Incorporated for professional engineering services to support the Capital Improvement Planning Program project CS TAC 1987 for a total contract amount not to exceed $11,564.00 at a term of 3 years. This also authorizes directors to take such other actions as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Support.
thank you. It's been moved and supported. Ms. Welch?
Yes, this contract supports our engineering group by providing consultant services for DWSD's Capital Improvement Planning Program, in which capital work is developed and prioritized by neighborhoods in according with risk and criticality models to identify those areas for construction projects. This contract is to continue supporting the programmatic approach for us to be able to renew and rehabilitate DWSD's assets for water and sewer infrastructure. Proposals were published on and advertised for 41 days. We did receive 2 proposals, which were evaluated. AECom was ranked the highest. They are also a Detroit-based business, and at this time, procurement is recommended to the Finance Committee for full approval and movement to board.
Thank you. Are there questions? Comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, no, you know what? I'm reading it. I've answered my own questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. And we'll move on to item 2024-173. That's item F.
Yes, Madam Chairman. I move that the committee forward to the Board of Water Commissioners the approval of DWSD contract number 600657 with Core and Main, and contract number 600657 with Ferguson Waterworks for an as-needed purchase of repair clamps of various sizes for a combined total contract not to exceed $283,099.50 and a term of 1 year, and authorize the director to take any appropriate actions.
Thank you.
Support.
Support. It's been moved and properly supported. Ms. Welch?
This is another warehouse replenishment contract being awarded to the two lowest equalized bidders. This contract will provide repair clamps, which are used doing broken water main break repair work throughout the city of Detroit. These contracts provide stock for 1 year used by field crews to prevent work stoppages or emergency spot buys during our peak water main break seasons. We did publish bids for advertisement for 22 days. We did receive 2 bids, in which both vendors are being recommended awarded contracts based on the lowest price items that were submitted. So at this time, procurement is recommending to the Finance Committee for approval and movement to full board.
Thank you. Are there questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. We'll move on to G, 2024-174. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I'll take that one. I do have a question, not on the last one, but just in general. The term was used, equalized credit. Could that be explained to me, please?
Equalized credits is when we have a vendor that submits a bid and they are a registered Detroit certified business. And so they get a credit incentivized for bid, and it doesn't take away from their bid. But when they come in lower because of that equalization credit, we just mentioned it in the board letter so that you're aware of it. So if they were a Detroit-based business, then they would have been the lowest equalized. Like somebody could have beat them out if they did not have that Detroit certification.
And what is that credit percentage?
It depends, and so it ranges anywhere from 2% up to 8%. So if they're Detroit-based, if they're Detroit headquarter, if they're Detroit resident, joint venture, mentor venture, small business, and small minority business, there's a price range that's in the procurement policy. And so based on what certifications they have the option to stack those credits and get those incentives.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Glad to hear that. Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to make a recommendation from the Finance Committee to the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department. Authorize directors to approve DWSD contract number 6006578 with Edward C. Levy, Detroit Group, doing business as Edward C. Levy Company for an aggregate slag for a total contract not to exceed amount of $121,732 at a term of 2 years. This authorized directors to take such other actions as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Thank you. Is there support? It's
Yes.
been moved
Support,
and
Madam
properly.
Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Welch?
This is another warehouse replenishment item contract that is before the Finance Committee today. It does support our field crews when they are out in the field doing various repair work. Aggregate slag is kind of like a gravel type, rock component that they use to sustain and support our assets and piping when they're out doing work. We did publish for bids for 22 days. We did receive 3 bids, and Edward Levy Company was the lowest bidder. And so at this time, procurement is recommending it to the Finance Committee for full board and to the Finance Committee for approval and movement to full board.
Are there questions?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm just curious on these warehouse items. How do we inventory the products? I'm sure they're probably spread out at different locations. How do we know?
We have 2 warehouse locations, which is on the west side, and our main office, which is at CSF. And so we have actually 3 three warehouses: an automotive warehouse that maintains all of our automotive parts, and then a central warehouse and a West Yard warehouse. And so most items are stocked on the shelf, but when you have this bulk raw material, it is stored on our premises. And then the business units, when they have their jobs, they come to the window and they wreck out like it's called a stock checkout request. And then they use front end loaders with scales on them to retrieve the raw bulk material for their jobs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. And we'll move on to item H, 2024-175.
Madam Chair, I move that the Finance Committee forward to the Board of Water Commissioners for approval, amendment number 2 for DWSD contract number 6003012, FKA 6002757. I think FKA is formally known as, with Itron Inc. for the Water Save Source Warranty Replacement Program, Openway Riva AMI implementation, by adding $522,500 in funding for a total amended contract amount not to exceed $18,762,500. No changes to the scope of work or terms and conditions of this contract are being made, and that we authorize the director to take all appropriate actions to implement this motion.
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly supported. Ms. Welch?
Yes, this is the corrected contract for the receiver correspondence that was mentioned earlier. And so initially, the contract that was presented before you for the amendment of the $522,500 was applied to a contract that was for the previous metering equipment. So the contract that's before you now is the amendment to place that funding on the correct contract so that we can extend the contract value to allot for the additional parts. This amendment will cover the additional metering equipment that will be kept in stock so that as they go out and continue to implement the Itron program, it provides them with the latest technology that we are now utilizing for them to continue to order parts and stock them and replace them as needed. And so the original contract was approved by the board in 2022, which was the first amendment that added an additional funding for the change in communication platform when the technology changed, and we used a newer later version to help with meter reading and calculating accurate billage. This will be the second amendment to add funds for additional components that continue to support that project. And so procurement is recommending to the Finance Committee today to move to full board for full approval.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments?
Commissioners, I do want to just advise you all that it is 2:02. We have to open up the Capital Improvement Program and Operations Committee.
Okay, we will recess now to call the chair.
Time now is 2:02. I'd like to call the Capital Improvement Program and Operations Committee to order, please. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Coleman,
Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Kinlock.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to yield the floor back to the Finance Committee, please.
Thank you. We had just heard from Ms. Welch on 2024-175. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair?
So, yes.
Good evening, good afternoon, Nakia Branch Pinson, Deputy General Counsel. Earlier in the memo that was received and filed by this board, there was a request to rescind the motion that was approved by this committee and board at the July meeting, now would be a good time to make that motion if it is a desire of the board, because now there is a motion that's been approved to do the same action on a different contract. So you would need to rescind the earlier action that was done in the July meeting. And for reference, the item number is 2024-126.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Branch. So is there a motion to rescind item 2024-126?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. Thank you very much. Okay, our planning calendar. We had the two items completed for this month, which were the external audit presentations and the cash and investment treasury review. So we're on track. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? Okay, our next meeting then is October the 2nd, 2024. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Support.
So moved.
Yep.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to resume the Capital Improvement and Program Operations Committee meeting. At this time, can we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
It has been moved
Support.
and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Hearing none, this motion passes. Item number 4, approval of the minutes as presented. Can we have a motion, please?
Move approval. Mr. Chairman.
It has been
I
moved
support.
and it has been seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any abstentions? Hearing none, this motion passes. Item number 5, public participation. Do we have anyone? Going once, going twice. Okay. We have none. Next.
We have
Mr.
two
Chair.
members.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Brian Peckinpah, Public Affairs Director. We do have 2 hands raised.
Okay.
The first hand is Mr. Miko Williams.
Mr. Williams, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioner Coleman. I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Always great to hear from you, Mr. Williams.
Good. And shout out to all the commissioners, staff, and everyone that's in attendance. D'Amico Williams, Chief Executive Director of Hydrate Detroit. I want to address some of the recent concerns regarding water main breaks. Can anybody explain the procedure of what happens when a water break occurs? There's low water pressure, residents are calling, and also, what is the process to service those affected customers from the water main break? You know, I've gotten calls for water deliveries, and Hydrate Detroit doesn't deliver water to people affected by water main breaks. Those are for people that have been shut off and been shut off for a long time. I've gotten calls for people, you know, to bring water over to these people. And I said, well, you know, that we don't have any water. We don't even deliver water anymore due to COVID. So I tell them they can come to my office or however, and they can pick up some water, but we don't carry much water. And these citizens are concerned because they just want to know when their water is going to, you know, return back to normal. Are there any notices before work starts that, hey, this notice is to let you know, even by door hanger, that work will be done in the area from this date to that date? And please be prepared and advised, because some people have said they have not gotten any notice and they get upset. Another concern is water main breaks that were happening over the past 2 weeks. This was on the last week of August. Everyone's either gone on vacation or there's limited staff persons where a client of mine had to go to the ombudsman, Bruce Simpson, in order to get help with the low water pressure in his community because he couldn't find anyone from DWSD or get his response from Improve Detroit. I told him to call into this meeting to report his concern, but I just need these commissioners to understand that, you know, we need to know the full process of what happens when work is done in the area, how our residents informed. Will the Detroit Water Department pass out water to those affected persons? I mean, it has to be some form of a protocol here so that everybody would know. And if that could be told to me or to the public, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, the next person is Norel Hemphill.
Pentel?
Hemphill.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Attorney Norel Hemphill. Good afternoon, Chair
Good afternoon. How are you?
excuse me, committee. I just have a quick question. Is there a way that public comment can come at the end of the meeting? For public engagement, I know it's a little bit difficult to ask questions or engage with the materials that is being presented with public comment being in the beginning of the meeting. For example, in the Finance Committee meeting, there were several pieces that the public may have had questions on. And thank you for that rich presentation in the Finance Committee. But it's a little bit easier for us to engage if public comment is after presentations or just not at the beginning of the meeting. So again, is there any way we can change that format to provide more of an opportunity for public input and engagement? Thank you.
Well, I think, Ms. Hemphill, great question. Thank you for asking that. But the public comment is just that. It's just a comment. And if you notice, we don't usually answer the question. There's no question and answer session. We just don't do it like that. So it is strictly for a comment. If you notice when you say something, and normally I wouldn't do this, but to answer your question, that's why we do it when we do it. But if you do have comments or questions, what I'd recommend is you send us an email. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, the last person is Cecily McClellan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. Just recently, it was published that the 95 million of the 43 million of 95 million in federal dollars could be used for repairs, and of that, 9 million was allocated for lateral sewer line repairs. Director Brown had indicated approximately 40% of the sewer lines in the city of Detroit are disconnected, largely due to just the age of our system. Is there a potential that more than 99 million can be allocated for this process? 40%, and we're talking at least over 250 accounts. That's a good 100,000 accounts. 9 million is not going to go a long way, although it is, helpful. I'd like to know whether or not there is a potential to reallocate additional dollars toward those lateral lines. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, there are no more hands raised.
Okay. Thank you. With that said, we'll now move on to communications. I see we have none. Line item number 7 is unfinished business. I see we have none. Line number 8 is new business. Review of engineering and planning programs.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Chief Investigator Danny Allen, and this is the September 2024 Security and Integrity Division update. Next slide, please. Just a brief statement on who we are and some of the things that we do. We have two components. Our first is uniform security, and they provide general protection for our buildings and employees. And they are strategically staged throughout our properties, primarily CSF and the main office building. They receive continual and enhanced training to meet state standards. That includes a biannual firearms program, response to active shooter, CPR, and first aid. We also provide training for other DWSD employees. We work in conjunction with HR when doing this. That is active shooter and situational awareness, and other training as may come up and be necessary. Next slide, please. Our second component is the Revenue Protection Unit. The individuals that compose this group are experienced public law enforcement detectives and investigators, all retired with long careers and resumes. And the primary thing they are charged with is protecting DWSD financial assets. We work closely with all divisions of DWSD to accomplish this goal, primarily billing, collections, meter operations, and IT. We identify problem accounts, and we have three major sources of revenue. Amongst them are unbilled and underbilled water usage, vacant homes, which represents probably the significant portion of our revenue, and incorrect water usage. Now, the two, unbilled and incorrect usage, primarily are aimed at commercial establishments. We work very hard to make sure that the commercial establishments in this city are paying what they should. Next slide, please. In addition to the revenue component, and we perform site investigations to verify any losses of revenue, and we take actions to correct and identify the problems, primarily through billing. We also assist DWSD Legal with investigative needs. They will send us out to conduct a canvass, recover video footage, and interview witnesses, amongst other things. We also respond to locations where any of our employees are present to prevent breaches of peace at work sites when we are requested. That goes for any entity that may be experiencing threats from difficult customers. If necessary, we will coordinate with DPD for a response. Next slide, please. Our current revenue statistics continue to be robust. Year to date, we have $207,000 back billed, and this is fiscal year to date, I might add. Future billed, when we identify the account and get it back online, that's where that number comes from, $626 million, and water loss revenue. Now, in explanation of that, that was a task that Mr. Smalley gave us early on, to be watching vacant homes for water that's being basically pumped into those homes through burst pipes that nobody is ever going to pay for. And so once we inspect those homes, we determine that they are indeed vacant and that the infrastructure inside those homes has failed. We put a ticket in and meter ops comes out and shuts the water off directly. So far, we've responded to approximately 700,000, or I'm sorry, we've responded to approximately 700 of those vacant homes. That concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Line item 10, are there any other matters to be brought before the body? Okay, hearing none, our next meeting is scheduled for October 2nd, 2020.
Commissioner Coleman, we do have one more presentation, item 2024-184.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll make it quick since I thought we were going to wrap up. Thank you all for passing the prior CS 1987 in the Finance Committee. I'm Manila Gosine, Chief Strategy and Process Improvement Officer. I'm going to give us a quick update from our last time we did this last year. So some of the benchmarks that we are working towards on our capital program: reduce asset failures and water loss, reduce operational costs, and while we increase capital expenditures. We're working heavily towards meeting the goal of setting 8,000 lead service lines replaced per year, and we're well on our way with that this current year. We're also, through infrastructure committee meetings, working to minimize the disruption to neighborhoods with coordination with other underground utilities and DPW. This is our overall CIP process. It has not changed much since the last presentation. There's an ongoing refinement in the first three areas of planning, condition assessment, and design, and that updates the confidence in terms of what we're selecting as assets for replacement. This is an overview of where we have done a lot of water sewer condition assessments as well as stormwater projects over the last 6 years. With over $90 million in grants for the lead service line replacement program, there's been a major focus for resource allocation in addressing this item at DWSD. We've built an internal GIS team that updates, models this for areas that we give to contractors or assign those contractors, and we're averaging a rough 80% hit rate. So 80% of what we've asked contractors to hydro excavate and find are maintaining a high level of that 80% for the lead service. And I think as of 2018 to now, we've replaced over 10,000 lead service lines. Another focus over the years has been the coordination and design of large projects that reduce the amount of wet weather into the local sewer system. Those flows are either being removed or reducing peak flow within the system. These efforts are ongoing and intended to commence in the short term. All of the previous slides, in addition with many other items, are criteria that we use in updating the DWSD risk and criticality model. This has been a very good indicator on asset failure and gives us confidence on the assets selected for replacements are correct. As DWSD increased its spending since 2019, there is a trend line of reduced water main breaks. The exception is fiscal year 23, where we had an abnormal amount of breaks due to some pump station trips. We worked with our regional partner to work through those issues and started normalizing the water main breaks back this year. This is an overview of the construction throughout the city since 2017. We have over here's a list of just most of the contracts on the water and sewer, but we have over $79 million worth of active sewer contracts, with 20 million of those being wrapped up this calendar year. On the water side, we have over $132 million worth of active water construction works, with 60 million of that being wrapped up predominantly this year. One of our biggest goals from this program is reducing the likelihood of failure, mitigating against consequence of failure, and building allowing a return on investment for this, building the neighborhood resiliency. If there are any questions, let me know. Nope. Thank you.
I think you're on mute, Commissioner Lane.
I'm sorry. Did we do the planning calendar?
Deputy Director Smalley, we're going to have the stormwater update next month, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, excellent. Next item, are there any other matters to be discussed or brought before this body? Seeing none, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved. I have a second, please. I'll second it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
All right, we have 5 minutes till we open up the Customer Service Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Mary, how are you?
Okay. Well, hello there, Mr. Director. I'm fine now.
Okay. All right. That's all that matters.
I appreciate all the assistance I received.
We all need
apologize.
little assistance now and then. We all do.
I apologize for my appearance.
You look great.
You got to keep up with these phones. You can't let them go dead on you. Oh my goodness. Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Customer Service Committee meeting at 2:30. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Not a problem. Chairperson Blackman,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Garcia, you may be on mute. Commissioner Forte.
Present.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum. Just to note, Commissioner Garcia is here. I see her in the Zoom.
Okay, let's hope she can hear us and that she can respond. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Forte, seconded by Commissioner Blackman. All those in favor, please indicate by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. The next item is the approval of minutes of August 7th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I approve. I offer a motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Forte, seconded by Commissioner Blackman. Hearing no objections, all those in favor of approving the minutes of August 7th, please indicate by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Are there any nays? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is public participation. Is there anyone who has indicated a desire to speak before this committee?
Madam Chair, Brian Pecapel, Public Affairs Director. We do have two individuals who've raised their hands. The
Would
first
you
one is
please read?
Jacob Graham.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay, Madam Chair.
Would you
The
please read
first-
the public comment statement?
Oh, yes, I may.
Are you there? You didn't respond. I just want to make sure you were there.
Oh, yes, I'm here, darling. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Madam
Commissioner
Chair.
Garcia. Go ahead. Yes.
Madam Chair, to make a comment, please raise your hand by using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. After your name is called, IT will give you permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is the microphone icon if you're online on a laptop, computer, or a tablet, or *6 if you are calling in. As a reminder, you will have a limit of 3 minutes to make your comment. There will be a timer indicating your remaining time. If you're online to make a comment, we kindly request you fill out the comment card link that's located in the chat. By filling out the card, we will have your contact information to follow up appropriately. If you are unable to click the link, please let us know, and a phone number will be provided for you to call to provide the needed information. You will only be called upon once the chair closes public comment for this committee. There will be no further comments from the public, and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your attention. And Madam Chair, the first person is Jacob Graham.
Welcome, Mr. Graham. Please proceed with your comment.
Hello, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, Madam Chair and members of the Customer Service Committee. My name's Jacob Graham, and I live on Townsend Street. I am calling in to inquire about the hard surface restoration in my alley after the work done to rebuild the square basin drain at the entrance to the alley. I called in last month and was hoping to get an update on when the hard surface might be restored. I haven't, nobody's contacted me in the meantime. And there was a question last month, maybe, and I wasn't able to respond about whether or not it was DWSD that disturbed the hard surface, tore out all the cement. And I just would like to confirm that I do have that that work being performed on camera, on video, and photos of the DWSD employees removing that hard surface. So if there was a question of if it was them that removed all of the cement, I can help provide confirmation on that. And so I'd appreciate an update on when that's going to be repaired, so that because it's right in front of people's driveways that they used to park, and so it's very difficult for them to use the alley now because the hard surface is removed and it's dirt and mostly mud. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Director.
Yeah, if he could put his address in the chat, we can probably get a response before the end of the meeting, or at least get with him before the end of the day. A lot of times what's happening is we make the repair to the storm drain, but the alley needs to be completely redone and repaired, and that's a DPW issue. But we will find out who's responsible for it, and I'll take responsibility for whatever department it is that we make sure that it gets done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
I just need his address in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graham, please make sure you put your address in the chat. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee?
Madam Chair, we do have Mr. Graham's address, so we'll make sure to follow up.
Okay, very good.
The next person is Cecily McClellan.
Ms. McClellan, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon. Cecily McClellan, representing We the People of Detroit. As we are aware, over 25,000 Detroit Lifeline residents will have to recertify as of October 1st. Their program will expire.
Yes.
It's my understanding that they'll be notified via the bill. As a customer of DWSD, I know I receive my bill approximately the middle of the month, meaning that most of these residents, or many of them that are on those schedules, will not get notification until the middle of the month. 25,000 persons having to recertify by October the 1st, and as of October the 1st, there should be some other mechanism of notifying them besides just the billing insert. I think it's also crucially important that the customer service representatives also know that there is a recertification process on the way right now as well, so they can be alerted and make the customers aware of the process, the process to recertify. But I think that this is crucially important, particularly with the number of residents and the limited time frame that's available to do this recertification. Most residents do not know that they'll have to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McClellan. Yes, Director Brown.
I just want to make one point, that the recertification is not a DWSD requirement. It is not a Wayne Metro requirement. It is a state of Michigan requirement. Now, we're going to move heaven and earth to help the state get people recertified with any and all that we need to do to get that done. But I just want everybody to understand that this is not our requirement. It's not a Wayne Metro requirement. It's a state of Michigan requirement. And they're struggling. They're struggling because they have to get everybody recertified all over the state. So we're going to do everything that we can possibly do to help our customers get recertified through the state's process, but it's not something that is totally within DWSD's control. I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
So, Mr. Brown, since it is not totally within our control and it must happen, what what are we doing to make sure that customers are not adversely affected?
Yeah, Matt, can you answer that question, please?
Yes, I sure can. So, Madam Chair, we have already sent out individual letters to every single person that is currently on and enrolled in the Lifeline program. And then in approximately 1 week from now, we will send out a second letter to every single enrolled Lifeline customer to remind them once again that they need to recertify. It's also in all of the paperwork that they receive when they first initially enroll into Lifeline, and it's on our website as well, that lists the policy that says every October 1st, you need to recertify onto the program. So we've done it in at least 3 different places to notify the customers. We got feedback from several in the community that if we did it too early, people would forget. And if we do it too late, so I feel like we've gotten into a situation where we can't win to win. But we are doing all that we can to communicate to our customers. As long as they apply on, or as soon as they do apply on or after October 1st, they will be protected from shutoff until Wayne Metro has an opportunity to fully enroll them into the program. So we will ensure that they're protected while that process is happening. And this is nothing new to our community, whether you're on the Michigan Energy Assistance Program, better known as MEAP, whether you're on the LAHEAP program, the Low Income Heating Energy Assistance Program offered by the federal government through the Michigan, or through the Department of Health and Human Services. October 1st is the grant period that all of those types of programs renew on. So this will be nothing new, and should not be anything new to the public.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but what is new is the software that's being used by the state in order to get people recertified. So
yes,
that is new and could be somewhat confusing. And we're gonna try to help our customers get through that process as best we can.
Yeah, absolutely, Director Brown. It's called Empower. And that is the system that the state now requires all grantees to use. So in the past, agencies like Wayne Metro Community Action Agency used their own internal program, which gave them access to all of the data because they were enrolling into those programs through their own system. And now the state of Michigan is requiring that all enrollees use the Empower system, which has some limitations and a learning curve as well, not only to the public that is applying, but also to the agencies that have to use and rely on that information. So yeah, it is a little bit new. I will also say that we had a recertification program earlier for some of our, actually 7,000 of our Lifeline customers in April. We sent out letters and made phone calls and contacted 7,000 Lifeline enrollees, and we had less than 800 that actually applied. So we had what, I don't know, math wise, this is what, 10%, right? Actually came back. So we do our best to communicate.
Well, I appreciate the explanation. I don't know what more we can do to help in this process, since it is not our requirement, but we are doing everything we can to make sure customers are adequately served. So thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that. And I hope that answers Ms. McClellan's question as well.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, sorry, just one more comment. I know that Cecily and Norel and Gwendolyn all have had numerous comments today and the last board meeting as well. We actually reached out to them, DWSD did, and we're actually having a meeting tomorrow with We the People of Detroit as well as Wayne Metro. And so we're going to have I'll call it a team meeting to further answer and clarify any existing questions that are there.
I really appreciate hearing that. I think that's going to go a long way to help us have a better understanding all the way around. Thank you so much. Okay,
Madam Chair, and just to
Yes.
clarify on the billing, just so everyone knows, the Lifeline enrolled customers are billed in the very last day of the month. So we provide inserts regarding recertification to those customers only. We don't want to confuse our other 200,000 or so customers by providing information about Lifeline recertify. So we only provide it to the enrolled households.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
I hope-
Madam Chair.
Are there any other comments?
Narelle
waiting.
Hill is the next person.
Okay, Ms. Hempill, how are you? And welcome. Ms. Hempill, are you there?
Yes,
Good.
good
Welcome.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
But thank you so much for raising the community meeting that we're having tomorrow. We look forward to engaging with both DWSD and Wayne Metro. As Ms. McClellan mentioned, we are critically concerned with those 25,000 people being re-enrolled, especially with you sharing those statistics about what happened in May, where less than 10% of those people re-enrolled. So we already have been sharing this information out in the community. Thank you for emailing over that bill insert. We have shared that widely and continue to share that widely and hope that we can get community members ready for the recertification process. I did have a question about the bill insert. Can you provide what information is being required of residents? We know that, of course, it's going to be something to verify that they are who they say they are, such as driver's license, social security numbers, and other things like that. But if you can briefly provide just a quick list so that residents are able to gather that information early enough to be ready for that October 1st start date. And also, I would like to know, what is the process for sharing out communications? We did send a letter. Does that letter get shared into the committee meetings here and then at the larger Board of Water Commissioners meeting? Or does that letter just go directly to the Board of Water Commissioners meeting? That letter was, again, voicing our concerns about the Lifeline recertification process. And also, will there be commercials or other advertising efforts to get residents ready for the recertification process? As it is, we are less than a month away. So as the days get closer, as October 1st gets closer, we are more and more concerned and just unready for this, as it seems like the idea that you shared is that we all are. The system is new, the process is new, and not enough information about it is being shared. So in closing, I look forward to our community meeting tomorrow to learn more information and to be able to engage in longer form dialogue. So thank you again for that, and have a wonderful rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Hempill. And we're looking forward to hearing good things about your meeting as well. Is there anyone else who has requested to be heard before this committee?
Madam Chair, we have Miko Williams.
Okay, Mr. Williams, welcome.
Hi, Commissioner Blackman. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Very good. And shout out to all the commissioners. D'Amico Williams, Chief Executive Director, Hydrate Detroit. What I just heard recently is, you want to all place the blame game on the state, but we know the state is not capable of handling, but this is your responsibility because these are your customers. We were told back in May or June, one of these months, that you all were going to work with Wayne Metro and you were going to try to have them recertify everyone in a timely fashion. Whatever happened to that? We even asked you how many people were recertified through the process to give you all enough time before October 1st. Where's the commercials? I saw the bill insert. The bill insert is right there on the DWSD Legistar. Very nice. It has a QR code. Very cool. It has more information. That's good. But where's the commercials? Where's the radio commercials that should be running every 30 minutes like a political ad? What is going on? I mean, these, we don't want people to fall off the system, but because they don't know, because there's no door hangers. I thought we were told there were going to be door hangers and door knocking and phone calls. I reached out to Brian Peckinpah in regards to the Easy Pay, and I'm glad we talked about, you know, there will be phone and email outreach. Hydrate Detroit want to be a part of that, because we have emails and we have phone information as well to get to our clients to make sure they know about any changes within the recertification or how to get on Easy Pay. But I'm just kind of getting frustrated because the lack of concern and the quick steadfastness and consistency of making sure all of our customers, 25,000 of those, are straight and they don't have to worry about being in trouble or anything like that, or being in danger of losing their benefits. I mean, there has to be an urgency that has to take place right now. We are at September 4th, 2024. What could you do in the next 20 to 25 days in order to make sure that everyone knows that they are to recertify? I mean, this is not criticism. It's just actually, you know, responding to what you all say and what can we do to help you all. You need to start accepting help from the outside. We can get to certain communities you can't get to. We can talk to certain people that you can't talk to. We have not restored trust, dignity, and integrity within this department, within our customers, that lost in 2014 when water shut off. And I wanted to see this happen, but I'm getting disappointed, trying not to be angry. I will be solutionary to work with you all to partner to figure out how can we get all of our people informed. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Director.
Mr. Williams is invited to tomorrow's meeting, and we're inviting him now if he wants to bring any recommendations and help that his organization may have in order to get this problem out. But let's be clear. We're in the middle of an election cycle. All airtime for all commercials on radio and television have been bought up. We see them ad nauseum on every station and every radio program that we're listening to at a very high cost. We can't compete with that. And neither should we even try. We know who these customers are. We know their addresses, we know their names, we have the ability to directly go to the people that need to recertify. We don't need to send out a message to 650,000 people that are not in this program. We need to directly interface with the people that need to recertify. And we welcome all the help that we can get in order to help our customers get recertified. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I would just have to also say the department certainly is not exhibiting a lack of concern for this process and for these customers. So thank you for clarifying and inviting Mr. Williams to the meeting. I'm sure that will be beneficial for all concerned. Are there any additional comments?
Madam Chair, Mr. Williams was the last commenter.
Thank you very much. And we will now close public participation and move on to communication. Yes?
Madam Chair, through the chair, I'm not a member of the committee. I just wanted to comment also on Mr. Williams' testimony. We have an interest in getting all of those people recertified because we want them to be part of the program. We also have a much more narrow interest in, if they're not part of the program, we will never be reimbursed for the services we give them. So we have both, we are motivated both by wanting to be a responsible utility. We are also motivated by wanting to get as much revenue in the house as we can. That's all.
Thank you for that input, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. And I'm sure everyone listening knows that that is our motivation and our concern, and that we are willing to work with anyone and everyone to make sure that all of our customers receive all the benefits they justly deserve. Thank you. The next item then is communications. And under A, we have receipt of correspondence 2024-168. What is the will of the committee? Is there a motion?
So
Madam
move,
Chair,
Madam Chair. So move.
Moved by Commissioner Garcia, seconded by
Support.
Commissioner Forte, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're now under unfinished business. Mr. Jacob Brand's restoration. Did we hear from Mr. Graham earlier today? And I think the director already really commented on that. Is there anything else to share?
No, Madam Chair, not at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, I think the unfinished business was there. And I know that Mr. Smalley and his team did a full investigation on Mr. Graham's comments that he provided at the last meeting. And we will, as Director Brown stated, I don't think Director Brown was aware, but we will have a answer and a response to Mr. Graham in the coming days.
Thank you very much. Moving on then to new business, our customer service metrics, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually going to turn it over to Ms. Crowell, who will kick us off with our metrics.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good
How are you
afternoon.
this afternoon?
Wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Kimberly Crowell, Customer Service Manager. I will be delivering the August 2024 metrics for you guys this afternoon.
Thank you.
Next slide, Matt.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
During the month of
I'm catching up, Kim. Hang on.
Thank you. During the month of August, we managed a total of 63,000. Well, let's just say close to 63,300 total customer touch points. And this total includes calls and email inquiries. Our daily contact volume for the month averaged out to be over 2,800 contacts per day. This is a significant increase compared to the forecast 1,400 contacts that we currently have in place today. In total, for the month of August, we had over 151,500 contacts, which includes our customer service calls, email inquiries, and our self-service interactions through our online portal. Our current daily contact volume is 106% over forecast per day. Now, this indicates a higher demand for our services than initially anticipated. So out of the calls that we received, 22% of our calls were answered within a 2-minute time frame. And in order for us to achieve our goal of having 70% of our calls answered within a 2-minute time frame, we estimate that we would need around 110 full-time employees dedicated only to answering calls. Next slide.
Before you leave that slide, are there any questions or comments regarding it? I really, I know that you're concerned, as are we, that we had lower percentage of calls answered within the 2 minutes. But in terms of that, in the number of calls that you received, I guess we have nothing to do but to commend you for the work that is being done by our customer service representatives. Of course, we know the customer may, in some instances, may see it differently. And we do try to get in touch with them, just as, answer their calls and their concerns as quickly as possible. So please proceed.
Thank you. So on our emergency line, the average speed of answer is 8 minutes and 12 seconds. And we're currently meeting the service level. We have a service level of 29% for this line. And for our non-emergency line, the average speed of answer is 25 minutes. We're achieving a 4% service level for this particular line at this time. Our customer satisfaction score stands at 74%. This reflects our ongoing efforts to meet our customer needs and expectations effectively. We have achieved a first call resolution rate of 63%. This metric alone, it indicates that a significant portion of our customer issues are being resolved during the first contact. And it's also worth noting that our customer satisfaction score has exceeded our goal for 11 consecutive months. And this right here alone demonstrates our consistent performance and reliability in our service delivery by our customer service specialists. So I will take your sentiments that you relayed back to our customer service specialists, which I did in our last all-staff meeting. They were very appreciative of the response from the Board of Water Commissioners. So
Before you leave that, go back,
yes.
please, Kim. So are there any questions from commissioners on this line? Committee members, I should say. So let me just ask about the 25 minutes, the 4% on the non-emergency line. Did we receive many adverse comments from our customers about that? I see our customer satisfaction percentage, but that is certainly exceeding the amount of time that you want to have on any of our customer service response lines. So what are we trying to do there?
Well, what we're trying to do currently is we're trying to, we know that we need to address our speed of answer on both our emergency and our non-emergency lines to better meet our service level targets. So one thing that we need to do is add additional staff to our lines in order to answer, in order to meet our target. In addition to that, we're also explaining to our customers, we are apologizing to our customers as it relates to our long wait times. I do want to make note that our Easy Pay, our longest wait time, which is the 25-minute, this strongly has a lot to do with our Easy Pay that went live on I think it was the end of July, if I'm not mistaken. So we do have a lot of customers that are reaching out to become enrolled in our Easy Pay, and that's what we're finding, that most of our calls that are coming in is customers wanting to get enrolled in the Easy Pay program.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that update on that. And you may proceed.
Thank you. Next slide. So this slide here, this shows pretty much a 6-month data of all of the calls that we received, our average speed of answer, and it just shows our average hold time, our average wait time, our average talk time, everything in a 6-month study. So this is all of the data for the last 6 months.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? Comments? I think this clearly demonstrates what you're trying to do to make sure that that we're on top of this as quickly as we can.
Thank you. So this will conclude my part of the customer service presentation. I'm going to hand it back over to Matthew Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Crowell.
Thank you.
Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be discussing the key results from the Lifeline Program Affordability Program. So we currently have nearly 26,000 residents that are receiving the Lifeline benefit of $18.43 or $56 a month. I am very happy to report, and within the first month of going live with the Easy Pay $10 down program, 36-month payment plan, we have 4,379 individuals on the program. Are enrolled in Easy Pay. That's an average of 875 per week that we're enrolling. So when I compare that to other cities that have done similar type of programs, we're well ahead of the average weekly enrollment rate. So we're really happy with that number. The 10-30-50 payment plan obviously is going down. It was 4,000 last month. It's 2,100 this month. Obviously, people are asking to be removed from that program to get on the Easy Pay plan, which is what we expected to have happen. And then pending eligibility for Lifeline is 4,902. And as reported at the last board meeting, we have paused enrollment into the Lifeline program, waiting for that recertification period on October 1st. If we enrolled somebody today, they wouldn't even receive the benefit. Because it would be removed from the state program effective September 30th. But they are protected from service interruption at this time. So we are still protecting them from shut off, knowing that on October 1st, Wayne Metro Community Action Agency will process their application beginning on October 1st when the new program starts. So we currently have 37,000 individuals that are protected from shut off at this time. Any questions before I move to the next slide?
Any questions, commissioners, or comments? Commendations, please proceed.
All right, this next slide, there's been a lot of comments, public comment that's come in about what does this program cost, what's happening. And so I wanted to address it in this slide. In the past, I have just provided what the total number of gap payments, and that's the part that the program Lifeline covers, and the amount of arrears that is forgiven from the program. It's just been a combined number, but I wanted to separate it out and demonstrate. It seems to be that the public comment is questioning DWSD's commitment to our residents, and I want to make it perfectly clear, and that's the number in red that I'll get to in a second, of what our commitment is to our residents. But the difference between the $18 payment and the actual water bill on a monthly basis, over the span of the program, which in August had its 2-year birthday since the launch of Lifeline, there's been nearly $19 million in payments that have been supplemented with the Lifeline program against the water, sewage, and drainage bill. Arrears that have been forgiven have been over $43 million for a total combined assistance on Lifeline to our residents of nearly $62 million over the last 2 years. I think that is a absolute remarkable number and shows DWSD's unwavering commitment to the community and to our residents that we are here to serve. Now, let's look at the funds that have been received from either the Great Lakes Water Authority RAP program, some of the state programs like Luau and the Water Affordability Grant, as well as the Low Income Household Water Affordability Grant, or LIWAP, that came from the federal Department of Health and Human Services. DWSD has received nearly $23 million in state, local, and federal funding to go against the nearly $62 million of assistance that we provided. That leaves what I would call a gap or a difference. I think I used the word to our CFO yesterday. That's the amount that DWSD, I think in layman's terms, we have eaten of nearly $40 million. So if anybody is ever questioning DWSD and this board's commitment to our community, I would say it lies right here on this slide.
Totally agree. Any questions or comments, commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Yep. All right, so we've had nearly 40,000 people that have applied for Lifeline, almost 26,000 that are receiving the benefit. The 85% of all of the customers that are enrolled in Lifeline are at the $18 a month payment. So that is a very high number, and it just shows that the vast majority of our customers need it and qualify for the $18 a month payment and are receiving that benefit, which is great. The average gap payment on a monthly basis, the difference between that $18 a month payment and the actual water, sewage, and drainage bill is $49.96 a month. And the average arrearage forgiveness, and that's wipe clean when someone initially enrolls into Lifeline, is approaching $1,600 a month on average for all 3 tiers. And then just looking at household size, nearly 91% of all of our customers that are enrolled into the Lifeline program fall under the 0 to 4 household size.
Thank you very much.
About Lifeline?
Just commendations for everything we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
My apologies.
Now we're going. I'm sorry, I'm missing what you just said. Okay, going into the planning calendar now. If there are no questions on what's been presented already, we're moving into the planning calendar and promise pay.
Oh, just a comment.
Oh, please, Commissioner Forte.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Matthew and his team for that analysis. I think it's important to do that stop, look, see what the benefit has been to the customers. and did what investment on behalf of DWSD, and I thought that was very clearly presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Absolutely. Okay, Mr.
All right,
Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to provide a brief overview of Promise Pay. We didn't have quite enough time in the formal session a couple of weeks ago, so I just wanted to talk again about Promise Pay and the Easy Pay integration. Promise Pay is a third-party vendor that we've hired that the board approved at the last session to move forward, and I just wanted to show some of the benefits to the public and to our residents and our customers, as well as to DWSD. And so Promise Pay, like I said, is a third-party vendor. They're going to handle, as soon as they get on board, we're looking at about a 60 to 90-day transition period to bring them on board and get them trained and transition Easy Pay over to Promise Pay. But Promise Pay, the vendor, will actually handle the Easy Pay calls going forward in the enrollment of that, which will free up our staff to concentrate on our day-to-day DWSD proper calls. Enrolled customers in Easy Pay will actually receive their bill through and from Promise Pay, which will, I think, make things a little bit clearer. So the customer will actually see two different bills, and I think it's really important to kind of show what that benefit is going to be. So I'm just going to move over. It's going to be the flexibility. So first of all, by having two different bills, let's just say that the DWSD bill on a monthly basis, which averages about $85 a month, might have a due date of, let's just say, the first of the month. And Easy Pay, and with using Promise Pay, they'll be able to pick their due date. So if they want, they won't owe all the entire bill together of, on average, $130 a month. They'll be able to pay their DWSD bill of $85, let's say, on the first, and then they can choose 2 weeks later, maybe when their next paycheck comes, to have that bill due on the 15th of the month. So they'll have a little bit more flexibility, actually a lot more flexibility, on how they can pay and keep up with their water bill, which I think is great. Promise also has a lot of technology that they've already mastered in several other large cities throughout the United States, where they send reminders about their payments via phone, email, text, any way that really the customer wants it. They have websites. They make it super easy. They congratulate the customer when they make a payment. Confetti falls down from the screen and rewards them, which has been shown through human interaction. That's a real positive reinforcement. And they also offer different methods of payment. So they can use, Cash App, Apple Pay, Venmo. They can use prepaid debit cards. There's a multitude of ways they can pay via their phone. They can pay via text messaging. So there's a little bit more flexibility there as well for our customers. So that's some of the benefits that they'll receive. They'll also, as you just heard from Kim, they'll also likely receive the benefit when they want to talk to someone about Easy Pay. They'll be able to get into the call center quicker because it'll be handled by a different call center outside of DWSD. It'll be handled by Promise Pay. And by the way, if anybody's asking, all of their customer service reps are based in the U.S. And they all work from home. So yes, I know that I'll just answer that up front. So
thank you very much.
Yeah. And so let's look at the benefits to DWSD. I think I probably already covered them, but again, the outreach, they're going to not only reach out about the current DWSD bill, but also about the Easy Pay payment. So they're going to reach out to the customers. They'll be able to manage them and all that type of communication that goes back and forth between the bills, which will be nice. And it'll provide relief to the customer assistance center, service center, because we won't be taking those calls. And as you can see, I think if you remember from the last slide that Kim presented, which was the 6-month outlook, in the last 6 months, we've increased by over 10,000 calls on a monthly basis. And when you look at that, our average call volume is estimated to only be less than 30,000 calls a month. And right now we're averaging 65,000 calls a month. So with a 10,000 call increase in the last 90 days. So
does that have an impact, Mr. Phillips? Does that have an impact on the customer service morale?
Absolutely, it does. Yes, it certainly does. And as you can probably guess, that when your call volume doubles, your workload doubles. And
Yes.
that means our customer service reps are taking twice as many calls as what they did 6 months ago. The breaks in between calls, the lag, what we call the lag time, isn't quite there. I will say that Kim and her leadership team does a remarkable job of keeping our staff updated of what's going on, positive reinforcement and encouragement of just acknowledging the fact that, yes, we understand that call volume is going up. We know that it's happening. Our biggest thing is our customer service reps they get upset because they see the wait times go up. They see that customers are waiting on average 25 minutes and they don't want that to happen. So I think if there's anything that's there, it's that part that they don't like. Kim, I'm on every call that she does with the team, and Kim and her team, her staff does a great job of providing positive reinforcement, thanking them for the job that they're doing. And like Kim said, the accommodations that the board makes, that this body makes during these public comments. Unfortunately, our team of 80 people don't get to hear that because they're working right now. They're taking phone calls, so they don't get to sit on this call and hear you. But we take that back to the team and let them know, and that goes a long way. It's not only just Kim and the leadership team here at DWSD saying it, but to know that the board is providing accommodation goes a long way, and so we ensure that they understand that. So we thank you again.
Well, thank you again. I think the commendations are well earned, so we want them to know how much we appreciate their efforts. But thank you.
Yep.
Commissioners, it is 3:16. We do have to open up the
Okay.
Human Resources
I will.
Committee.
Madam Chair, that does conclude my presentation. So I don't know if you can quickly end it and we can go right to the next one.
Are we allowed to take the time to, I think we're finished with our agenda, are we not?
We are.
So the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Properly moved, and I support that we adjourn this meeting, and thank you all so very much. Meeting stands adjourned.
All right, thank you. We will now call the Human Resources and Organizational Development Committee. Mr. Secretary, could we have a roll call, please?
Not a problem. Chairperson Davis.
Present.
Commissioner Blackman. Commissioner Blackman, you're on mute. Commissioner Garcia.
Present.
Righty.
Can you hear me?
I'm present. Can you hear me now?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I can hear you both. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for today?
So move.
Second.
That motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by the sign of aye.
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 All opposed, and that motion is carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 7th?
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Motion's been made and properly supported. All in favor of that motion signify by the sign of aye, please.
Aye.
And that motion is also carried. We'll now open up public participation. I presume that's Mr. Peckinpah or someone from your staff.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is Brian Peckinpah, Public Affairs Director. Would you like me to read the instructions or just go right to the commenters? We have one person with their hand raised.
Go ahead and read it, Justin, please. Thank you.
Okay, will do, sir. To make a comment, please raise your hand by using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. After your name is called, IT will give you permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is the microphone icon, if you're online on a laptop, tablet, or a computer, or *6 if you are calling in from a mobile phone or other phone. As a reminder, you will have a limit of 3 minutes to make your comment. There will be a timer indicating your remaining time. If you're online and make a comment, we kindly request you fill out the comment card link that's located in the chat. By filling out the card, we will have your contact information to follow up appropriately. If you are unable to click the link, please let us know and a phone number will be provided to you. You will only be called upon once. Once the chair closes public comment for this committee, there will be no other comments from the public and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your attention. And Mr. Chair, the first person with a hand raised is Mr. Miko Williams.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peckinpah. Mr. Williams,
Hi,
please.
Commissioner. Hello, Commissioner. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Very good, Mr. Davis. And shout out to all the commissioners once again. D'Amico Williams, Chief Executive Director of Hydrate Detroit. Just want to respond to comments that were made in the last meeting. First of all, I have conferred with my Vice Chief Director, Beulah Walker, and I will be in attendance. If possible, can I please have the information sent to my email or text message? That would be cool. Water for Detroit, water, the number 4 Detroit at gmail.com is my email address. And we just want to be a partner. We just want to be supportive. And I want to thank we the people of Detroit for all the work that they do because their advocacy is amazing. I've seen it myself personally, and the people that they connect to, again, we connect to communities that you may not be able to reach. We want to be a partner. We want to be supportive and inclusive within this situation that we're faced with. And I want to thank Matthew Phillips. You know, he works very hard. This is a very great thing to have Easy Pay with the Promise Pay, to have Venmo, Cash App, and Apple Pay, which we know people are doing tap to pay. We know people that are, you know, becoming technically savvy, but we also want to look out for our senior citizen customers. We also want to look out for those who are not computer savvy, and make sure that we reach all of our 250,000 customers and such with information they can spread. You know, I still believe in the power. I understand that the political season has taken up everything, but you know, we can be creative however we need to do it. You know what I'm saying? By social media ads, targeting. Yes, you can do a phone call and email outreach. Again, Hydrate Detroit would love to be a partner in that. It would be very effective. You know, door knocking is super effective as well. You do it just like these political campaigns do it, right? Target the areas where they have the most highest shutoff numbers. And also, I wanted to ask that I forgot to ask, what is the shutoff numbers right now as we speak? You know, we get these numbers in the Detroit newspaper. We never get them here, and where they could be possibly coming from. If it's not payment, or if it's, you know, customers that just don't want the service anymore. I mean, that communication really counts. Following up, I only got 30 minutes left in HR. I'm still not seeing billboards and commercials of wanting to be a water worker. I like the commercials on Facebook, but I like them to be transferred so that you could get outreach for people. And thank you all for doing the partnerships and such. But you know, we have young men that are desperately in need of a job, and you can help them and you can hire them and put them to work. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for taking my comment. Have a great, wonderful day.
You're very welcome, and thank you for your comment. Mr. Peckinpah, do you have any other hands up?
Mr. Chair, no, we don't. No more comments, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll now close public participation. We do not have any communications, nor do we have any unfinished business. That brings us to human resources metrics, and I'll call upon our HR director, Ms. Thornhill.
Good afternoon, commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I'll now share my screen. Okay, can everyone see? Okay. Currently, DWSD has 662 employees. And here's our first slide, our demographics.
Your screen's not showing.
Looking at our residents and hiring, again, currently 600, I'm sorry.
Director Thornhill, I'm
Screen
sorry,
not
we're not
showing.
seeing a slide.
Okay, hold on.
I was sorry, I'm having a little hard time hearing you. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Garcia, Director Thornhill was making her HR presentation, but
I
the
beg your
slide
pardon.
wasn't showing.
I'm sorry.
We're just waiting on a slide for the presentation. That's all, just a minor thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Let's try this again.
we got it now.
Oh, shoot. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Can you see it now?
There you go. Yep. We got it.
Okay, and I have a malfunction on my end, so please give me 1 second because I don't have it on my screen. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, what about now?
Yes, we see it.
And you see me changing. We're good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry about that. Don't know what happened.
Patricia,
Yes.
sorry, it's Matt. We see we see like two different slides at the same time. You might want to go up to the upper left-hand corner under display settings and maybe change to presentation mode. It'll help. It gets rid of all your comments.
Recording in progress.
Hello?
Amani, we can hear you.
If you hit the display settings right above, I don't know if you can't see your screen, IT can come up right quick and help out.
Please have them come up because we did test this earlier, everyone. So our apologies. It worked earlier. Please, thank you. I'm going to keep trying though until they come up.
Share my screen.
Are you in your office?
I am. And the
Okay.
door is unlocked.
Someone's coming.
I know what's going on.
Patricia, would you like Tamara to share her screen? She might be able to pull your presentation up right away.
Okay, let me send it because I made a minor change. So let me send it to her, please.
Okay.
And I know what's wrong, but we'll fix it afterwards. Thank you, Tamara. Let me know when you get it, Tamara, please.
Got it, opening it now.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You ready?
Just about. We're ready.
Thank you, Tamara. Okay, thank you. So in front of you, you see our employee demographics by ethnicity. This is a chart that we share every month. And as you can see, we have 662 employees. This is the highest number we've had in the past 5 years. And this is a net increase of 14 since last month. Are there any questions? Okay. Next, we have our breakdown by residents. Again, this has been a net change of plus 14 since last month. Are there any questions? We did not have any retirements, however, in the past month. Next slide, please. Currently, our retirement eligible employees hovers around 18%. Generally, this number is between 18 and 22%. But as we hire more employees, this number decreases slightly. So that's why we're at 18% currently. Next slide. We have 2 slides that will cover our current open requisitions. We have a total of 18 open requisitions that equates to 25 open positions. This is 8 less than last month. So we have been filling our positions. This is slide number 1 and slide number 2. Are there any questions?
Director Thorner, can you click back to the previous slide, slide number 1, please? Just 1 second. So the growth that we had, the 14 of the new hires, they were in, was it, what department were they in? Or generally, maybe not to the exact person, but I assume they're in field services or?
Yes. So from the number that was filled, we had 2 from IT, 1 from stormwater, several different divisions we filled positions, but also it's a net amount, Commissioner. So even though we filled 20 positions, we had 6 people leave. So that's why it was plus 14.
Okay.
So that's how we arrived at that number.
How many were in field services?
14.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. I asked that question because it's there's been some discussion from time to time about Detroiters needing jobs, and we're doing well on that. It seems to me 14 of those were Detroiters, if I heard you correctly. Am I right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Please continue.
You're welcome. Thanks. And the next slide, just slide 2 of the open requisitions. And we can move ahead to our recruitment efforts. So this is how we're able to have candidates on deck when it's time to hire. As you know, and you've seen in previous months, we conduct various amounts of job fairs from month to month. Some repeat monthly and some are new opportunities for us. We do work very closely with Detroit at Work. However, when there are open positions, we will hold an interview and hiring fair on the spot and work with our Henry Ford Health partner to make sure people receive their physicals for that day, and we'll know if they're hired. So if you take a look at August 7th, we interviewed 19 individuals and hired 16. And being this nimble with conducting recruiting fairs from month to month allows us to fill positions rather quickly. This is something we hadn't done in the past couple of years, and we just implemented last year. Are there any questions? Next slide, please. Something new that we did last month is that we held an employee resource fair. This was our employee services division here within Human Resources. And we held this employee resource fair at our CSF or Central Services facility. In attendance on that Tuesday of August 27th, we had the City of Detroit's deferred compensation team. That's the 457B deferred compensation team. And they conducted a presentation, and they also had two of their participants, investors of that deferred compensation plan in attendance to answer questions with employees. We also had Diversified Credit Union that talked with employees about being financially fit, and also Colonial Life Insurance. On the
Mr.
following
Chair,
day, I'm sorry, Commissioner Blackman,
I
sorry.
didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue what you were saying.
Just very quickly, on the next day, we did have Aflac come out as well.
Aflac, okay. Explain to me, refresh my memory on what the 457B deferred compensation plan is.
Okay, so it's another way to invest your money for retirement. So instead of
Okay.
the annuity, it's just a different plan, and you can select what provider that you have to help you invest.
Okay, give you consultation on how to invest or what?
You can pay for that in addition as well. Yes, you can.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. And what was really nice is that we were able to have our new hire class of FSTs attend. And in that case, we had 17 in that particular class. So we had a few others come in, and they were able to partake and take advantage. So that was really nice for them as well. I was in attendance. It was very nice.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions, anyone? Thank you. Next slide, please. So for our planning calendar for the month of September, we're going to talk about our S licenses under our training and development division within human resources. So can we go to the next slide? And we've spoken about this, I think maybe about 16 months ago. So you've seen these slides before, but I'll just do a quick reiteration. Water supplies must be under the supervision of a certified drinking water operator per the Safe Water Drinking Act. A drinking water operator is a person that holds an S1 license. That's a particular class license. And the Class S distribution systems are S1 through S5. So S2, S3, so forth and so on, as bullet 3 indicates. Next slide. The class level requirement of an S license depends upon the size of the population the distribution system is supplying. DWSD, the City of Detroit, requires an S1 license holder. As you can see here with the 5 bullets, the City of Detroit does have a population greater than 20,000. Any questions so far? Next, please. DWSD provides in-house training to prepare for the S license testing. And that training is twice a week for 8 weeks. Previously, Deputy Director Smalley was conducting the training, and now we have a training HR person, a new employee, Mr. Kendrick Jackson, who assists us with this. We also have a vendor come in and assist employees in preparing for the math portion of the test. In order to maintain your S1 license or 2, 3, 4, 5 license, you have to complete continuing education credits or CECs on an annual basis. And what we've done is we've linked those classes and we've made them available through DWSD's intranet. Are there any questions? Thank you. Next slide, please. So since the last time we discussed this with you, we've had 14 people receive new levels within the S license. And their names are on the screen. Hopefully next month we'll be able to bring them in for you to meet. So congratulations to these 14 employees. And let's take a look at DWSD's total list of 58 employees, and I will send these names out to you as they weren't in the original packet. We have 4 employees with S1 licenses, 3 with S2, 11 with S3, and a total of 27 with S4. And lastly, our new group, we have 3 with S5. Are there any questions, commissioners?
Just commendations.
Thank you. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Thornhill. Just bear with me just a second. Okay. All right. When that slide goes down, I'll be able to see the rest of our agenda. All right. And all right. Thank you again, Ms. Thornhill. Are there any other matters?
Thank you.
Hearing none, our next meeting is October 2nd. Just before we adjourn, just a note of personal privilege here about our customer service department. My neighbor had an interaction with a customer service rep, and he was totally impressed. He couldn't stop talking about how helpful this woman was. I've been texting him throughout our meeting today, trying to get this person's name because I wanted to mention it publicly. He hasn't answered me yet, but I promise I'll have it at our next meeting. But I didn't want to let today go by without recognizing our customer service department. And next meeting, I'll have her name. So that is my personal point of personal privilege. And the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, thank you very much for sharing that with us. It's always great to hear, and I will move adjournment.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will ensure that we share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now get that name, please. All right. Motion's been made and properly supported, and we stand adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
And then bringing it back.
Yeah, but he's gonna come here first.
Here, baby, hold that.
Then he's gotta
Where-
pick them up.
Where's your
because they
list
don't
of your
bring it.
medications that I left?
Alrighty, we have 3 minutes until we open up the Legal and Government Affairs Committee.
Okay. Chairman Einhauser, good to see you.
Thank you. I was about to say the same thing, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing incredibly well. I had my knee replaced 2 weeks ago yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And, the first week was pretty awful, but having category 1 narcotics is always helpful. And I ditched those last week. I'm now just using extra strength Tylenol. And
good.
We had a milestone this morning with the physical therapist. I can get rid of the walker. I'm using a cane.
All right. Progress.
Yeah, that is progress. So, but thank you for asking. Things are going well.
Good.
Okay.
Commissioner Kenlock,
Yes, I'm here.
how are you?
Doing fine, doing fine.
You're back from a very exciting activity.
Yes, a lot going on.
Yes, for sure. Okay.
Oh, I'm curious what Jonathan does for excitement.
Oh, well, you know about this last one, I think.
Reminder, commissioners, the meeting is still being recorded.
Are we open? Oh, we're being recorded. Thank you very much.
When we weren't being recorded, we're doing the sound check. I think I managed to both curse and blaspheme in the same sentence. So I'm glad we weren't recording.
Boy, oh boy. Okay. Mr. Chair.
Okay, yep, about to start the meeting. Yep, it's 3:45. Okay. Okay. Let me blow this up. The Detroit Board of Water Commissioners Legal and Government Affairs Committee meeting will now come to order. Would you please call the roll?
Sir, Chairperson Kinlock,
Present.
Commissioner Einhauser,
I'm present.
Commissioner Blackman.
Present. I'm not sure we're supposed to say the city, but it's present Detroit.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. A motion is in order to approve the agenda.
So move, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this item stands approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from August 7th, 2024. Motion is in order to approve the meeting minutes with any necessary corrections.
Move approval, Mr. Chair. I was waiting for my fellow commissioner.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, this action stands approved. Next item on the agenda is public participation. And who will be reading the participation instructions or the public comment instructions?
Mr. Chair, that's me, Brian Peckinpah, Public Affairs Director. I'll read the instructions. To make a comment, please raise your hand by using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. After your name is called, IT will give you permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is the microphone icon if you're online, or *6 if you are calling in. As a reminder, you will have a limit of 3 minutes to make your comment. There will be a timer indicating your remaining time. If you're online and make a comment, we kindly request you fill out the comment card link that's located in the chat. By filling out this card, we will have your contact information to follow up appropriately. You will only be called upon once the chair closes public comment for this committee. There will be no other comments from the public, and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your attention. The first person who's going to provide public comment is Mr. Miko Williams. Excuse me, Mr. Miko Williams.
Mr. Williams?
Hello, Hi, commissioners. Hello, Commissioner Kinlock. I want to thank you once again for supporting the Share Water Drive for Hydrate Detroit. Your participation was very, very appreciated, as well as commissioners. First of all, I want to say that I want to give shout outs to the customer service team of DWSD. You all are doing a great job. Matthew Phillips, Kim Crowell, the staff and leadership, as well as our workers who do an excellent job being on these phones and corresponding with our consumers. Thank you so much for everything you all do. I was standing behind Denise Page Hood, our former Chief Justice, and in the CBS, and I wanted to ask her, I did ask her to a certain extent. I said, Madam Justice, have there been any movement or recommendation, or have you rendered a ruling on the Detroit water shutoff trial that happened 2-3 years ago? And she didn't give me an answer. She didn't allude to any answer. And I told her how important this was, because we need to know you set precedent over what this city and its responsibility in regards to shutting off water. We are still waiting on a decision. And, she expressed a little thing to me, and I let her go because I didn't want to hold her too much because we were waiting in the pharmacy line. And it made me angry all over again. I was sitting in that courtroom. I was sitting behind DWSD, and I was literally shocked and dismayed that all the threats and possible scenarios that we would be sued by outside interests, those from Oakland County and any racist entity that don't want to give Black citizens of the city of Detroit water. And that made me angry all over again, that this lawsuit came from our own residents. It came from our own activists. It didn't come from outside. And we needed to really have a ruling on, what practices can be done and such. But the overall thought of it is we need to get this right, y'all. We need to really consider. We don't want to end up in lawsuits and challenges. And there's no one out there that could present any lawsuit or challenges that we're giving special favors or such. We are trying to help our customers that are the most low income, but also have no way to pay. And I'm sure other water departments will offer this same opportunity. I'm very sure of it, that, if it wasn't looked at as a bad thing of helping poor people and helping low income people, then we wouldn't be in the situation as we are. It just makes me feel like all of our efforts here, we could keep trying the best we know how. Thank you for inviting me to that meeting tomorrow. It's very important that we all work together to prevent things like this from happening. But I really want you to consider that, because there's people getting ready to launch lawsuits over the drainage fees and the flooding, and they all been denied. They could be reappealed. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. Mr. Peckinpah?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to react to Mr. Williams' comment about seeing the judge they're not supposed to talk about cases outside the courtroom. She would be violating her ethics if she did so. So don't take it so hard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Peckinpah, are there any additional hands raised, or have you received any communications or any messages in chat?
Mr. Chair, there are no more hands raised, and there's no messages or emails from the public regarding this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Public comment is closed. Next item on the agenda is communications. Under communications, we're under item A 2024-182, recipient correspondence. Motion is in order to receive and file receipt of correspondence.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported to receive and file the litigation report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, this item stands approved. Action stands approved. Next item on the agenda is item B, 6B 2024-181, receipt of correspondence, the DWSD FOIA report for the month of August. A motion is in order to receive and file the DWSD FOIA report for the month of August. Motion is in order.
Mr. Chair.
It's been moved. Is there support?
There is support. Thank you.
It's been moved and supported to receive and file the DWSD FOIA report for the month of August. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, this item stands approved to receive and file. Next item on the agenda is item 7, unfinished business. There is none. And we will now go to the next item 8A, which new business. We'll go to item 8A, which is legislative update. And we have a few legislative updates, reports. Ms. Pottspeech, are these oral reports, or are these reports that are written? Did you want to get a summary or overall of these various updates?
I have a PowerPoint for the committee. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
And I'll explain what all these other attachments are during the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't know it was PowerPoint. So let's begin.
So Tamara, if you could bring up the corrected one that I sent you this morning, that'd be great. Is that it, Tamara?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this is a legislative update on water affordability legislation. And I'm going to talk about, hold on, back one. Going to talk about state and federal. Go backwards, please. Okay. I'm going to talk about state and federal legislation. So first we'll talk about what's going on at the state level. Next slide. So there's been a coalition of stakeholders. We've been working together about 18 months now, just from water providers, water advocates, the state government, professors, we've had them all working together. So we've come up with a package of legislation that will be the first in the nation for a statewide water affordability program. And we know for a fact, based on our affiliations with national water associations, that all eyes are on Michigan to see if this package passes. It will serve as a template across the country for other states to try to enact legislation that codifies water affordability, just to avoid any kind of legal challenges, things like that. It will just set a precedence across the nation. Next slide. So our water affordability package serves two purposes. It's from a public health perspective. If you have access to water and avoid shutoff, that helps public health. Next, it reduces rate increases because of bad debt. If we have a bill that the customer can pay, which the gap payment is covered by some sort of sustainable fund, then the water providers can focus their revenues on operational and infrastructure needs. Next slide. So there's 4 key bills pending right now in the state legislature. And I won't read all this, but the first one is the bill that establishes the water affordability program. Here's the rules. It's patterned much after our Lifeline program. The rules here should look very familiar to everyone. So, and if another utility, but what this does is it mandates every water utility must participate in a water affordability program. If you don't have one of your own that's acceptable, then you join the statewide program. Next slide. The next slide is the bill that establishes the sustainable funding for the program. This is a $2 per month meter on any metered account or flat rate account. And if you have an approved plan that already has some sort of funding source, you can deduct the cost of your funding source from that $2 a month fee. For example, if your water provider collects money through RAP and say that portions to 20 cents per customer is contributing towards RAP, then you can take that 20 cents off the $2 and it will be $1.80 per month. Also, another big change in the legislation is the state is segregated into 4 what's called business service centers. And the money from each service center will stay in that region. So households in Grand Rapids, their funds stay on the west side pot of money and do not come to the east side to contribute towards, for example, Detroiters' water bills. And this was in response to requests from some of the legislators who felt they could support the program if there was a regional aspect to it. So that is something new. Next slide. Next is the shutoff protection bill. It just sets forth a lot of steps that need to be followed before you can interrupt service for non-payment. It protects critical care customers, regardless of income, from ever having their service shut off. Also, the 4th bill establishes a water affordability task force at the state level who will evaluate the legislation, how the funding works, how the program works, and see if there's any changes that need to be made. Next slide. So there's been 5 topics of interest statewide when we've been advocating for passage of these bills. Seniors. There was a lot of talk about seniors not being able to afford a $2 fee on their bill. The $2 fee is rolled into your program. If you cannot afford the extra $2, if that puts you over your income level, then you belong in the program and you will have that reduced bill that's no more than 2 or 3% of household income. So Attached in your package is the flyer explaining how seniors are affected by this legislation. Next is rural customers. A lot of discussion whether people in rural communities need water affordability legislation. And the answer is yes. There's been a substantial amount of data collected that shows the need is absolutely across the state. So we have a one-page flyer about rural customers, which is attached to your board package. Next is infrastructure. The collection rate makes a difference in what types of infrastructure improvements can be made. So we have a flyer about that. Pre-existing programs can have a reduction on that $2 fee. There's a separate flyer for that as well in your board package. And then we're working on a public health flyer that explains the public health aspects of water affordability. The Michigan Nurses Association, public health officials are all endorsing this legislation, and we will have quotes from them for this one pager. Next page. So what's the timeline? When will these bills be passed? They're all in committee right now. We hope to move them out of committee prior to the November 5th election and get a vote on the floor. It's very unlikely that would happen any sooner than the presidential election. So we're looking at the lame duck session, and we're going to push hard for passage prior to the end of the year. So there's a lot of factors with holidays, the hunting season, recess, things like that. So it'll move fast after the election. We have this QR code and actually a website with anything and everything you'd want to know about this legislation. And we use that website when we're educating constituents across the state. So I'll pause here regarding the state legislation to see if there's any questions.
Okay, I'd like to ask, are there any questions? Are there any questions? Ms. Poshvich, can you continue?
Okay, next is the federal level, what's going on. We are working on parallel pathways. Next slide. So at the federal level, there was LIWAP. Next slide. So let's review LIWAP for a second. From June 21 to September of 23, the LIWAP program was in effect at the federal level. And 1.6 million households took advantage of those LIWAP funds. And the Department of Health and Human Services has done studies nationwide. They know that the need is still there. The LIWAP funding is gone. So what's next? Next page. So water affordability legislation, reenacting LIWAP, is very complicated right now. Director Brown and I have been very busy at the federal level, working with water suppliers across the country to advocate on, there's 3 pathways where we could get some replenished funds for a national program. The first avenue is President Biden proposed a budget for 25 that apportioned $500 million for LIWAP, but really it goes to LIHEAP, the electric utility, the heat and energy sectors. They just want to add money to that program. And the language in the president's budget says states may use this additional $500 million for water assistance. The program would be administered by the DHHS, but energy sectors and us in the water sector, we do not want a combined program. We do not want to combine the funds because we'll just be fighting amongst ourselves for the funds. And an additional $500 million is not enough for the need nationwide for water. So we need to have the language. If this avenue goes through, at a minimum, we need to change this may to must, that they must use the extra $500 million for water affordability programs. So truthfully, both sectors are lobbying Congress against this proposal from the president. Next slide. The second avenue is Senator Padilla introduced a totally new, refreshed LIWAP program. It would be an actual act in and of itself that establishes LIWAP. And it would be a permanent nationwide assistance program administered by the EPA, not DHHS. So there's a lot of discussion amongst the utilities and the advocates whether it should go with EPA or stick with the DHHS. A lot of discussion about that. Republicans lean towards DHHS. They've already got the administrative mechanisms in place. They think it's easy to just add on the water. Others think EPA is better because EPA regulates water on a daily basis, and they will understand how water suppliers work more effectively. So this bill will be on the floor in September. Director Brown and I will be at the Congressional Black Caucus Convention next week. And Director Brown is a speaker on a panel with other water providers. Senator Padilla will be there as well, talking about LIWAP, making sure that we're all on the same page as to making sure that this year does not go by without LIWAP being funded and established. Okay, next is the third and last avenue. Next slide. Yeah, Senator Padilla, as a backup, also introduced an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act for 2025, a totally separate appropriation for national defense. He proposed an amendment that extends the COVID area LIWAP and adds money to that to keep it going. That avenue has been supported by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I do not know the likelihood of this little add-on to the Defense Authorization Act actually sticking, but again, we've got things coming from three different angles, and we have to, we're hoping that one of these will go through and pass this year so that we have the funding. As you saw from Matt Phillips' presentation about the shortage of funds for our lifeline, you could see that state and federal legislation is needed for water affordability funding to keep it going. Next page. So stay tuned. We'll keep you advised as to what happens in November and December. And hopefully we have a fantastic report for you in January that funding for water affordability is permanent and here to stay.
That's great. That's great to hear. So let me ask you, so previously at the state level, there was a lot of opposition, particularly from Macomb County and some other communities, which prevented some of their legislators from basically supporting the bill package. Let me ask you, has there been any movement or change in the legislative support in Lansing?
I would say that the position of Candace Miller has not changed, and we respect that. But the data has really shed a lot of light on the need in Macomb County. They've been out of RAP dollars for months. There's a waiting list in Macomb County to get on RAP. They've exhausted all their funds. Data shows the need in Macomb County is great, especially the southern end of Macomb County. Great amount of need. There were several communities in Macomb County that did not pass resolutions in opposition. They either stayed neutral or have expressed support, but have not passed a resolution. So we've gained some ground just through educating where the need is, that it's real, by adding the language to the legislation that allows for a deduction for existing funding sources for local water affordability programs, by adding language that keeps the money regional, things of that nature. So we have made some headway with some legislators, and you never know till the votes are counted, but I think we've made a lot of progress.
Now,
the numbers don't lie. The need is everywhere in Michigan. This is not a Detroit issue. This is a statewide issue.
That's why it's a little interesting that this need is needed, across the state. And it's interesting that folks would agree to limiting the pot of money by going regional, limiting the pot of money available for their own communities by going regional. So my my question to you is that, so, you know, what if they run out of money? I mean, or do projected that this it's not possible with this funding mechanism for those regions, for those communities.
Yep, that's a great question.
and I-
So at the end of each year, the department will evaluate which regions ran out of money, which had money left over, and they will adjust the funding factor in those regions. And it may go up to, say, $2.25 in region 1 because they ran out of money. It may go down to $1.75 in region 3 because they had money left over. So that's built into the legislation that it's, you know, it's a scale. It could be no more than $3, but it would never jump by $1 all at once anyway.
I see.
It's
Oh,
going
I
to be
see what
like,
you're saying.
it's going to be like LIHEAP or MEEP in Michigan. It fluctuates year to year, up or down 15 cents here and there. So that same concept, all we did was borrow language from MEEP or LIHEAP and put it into this legislation, which made it palatable to many more legislators.
Because they were familiar with it.
Right, and it's tried and true. This has been going on for a decade or more.
Any question?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, and it's reflecting both you and Ms. Poshpeish's observations, whether it's the Macomb County Public Works Commissioner or others. This is not a Detroit program, but this is a program that has an income qualification that is directed to low-income people. And there are low-income people all over the state. And it's no different than access to Medicaid or any of the other programs that are means tested. And I think people do a disservice by, you know, invoking the bad old days of everything that happens in Detroit is terrible for everybody else, because that's just simply not true.
Right.
That's all.
I agree. That's absolutely a great point. So I thank you. We look, you and Director Brown and your team have you know, really, in my opinion, started this whole movement as far as moving DWSD in that direction of reaching out and working with broader coalitions. And we have to definitely give thanks to you and your leadership, as well as our water activists here in Detroit. You know, they've been raising an alarm for a long time, and have really been working side by side with you all and getting to where we are now. So I'm really looking forward to us getting across the finish line, because I do feel, based on conversations I've been having with people, that we've made some major headways. So hats off to everybody involved.
It's been an absolute privilege to work with such a wide variety of stakeholders, hear their points of view, and everyone's been very respectful. And, you know, just when you hear all sides of the coin, and just stay calm, we were able to come up with this consensus legislation. It really can serve as a template for the country. And whenever we're in DC or talking to people in DC, they are very interested in how Lifeline is working and how this legislation is doing. So it's been a lot of hard work. I've just really enjoyed it. And hopefully, like you said, get it across the finish line by the end of the year.
Yes. Well, thank you. Does that conclude your report as it relates to the legislative update?
It does. And I know jam-packed your agenda with all the different flyers and summaries.
Perfect.
But, print them, use them, send to everybody and their brother that you know, and get the word out, because thank you, honey. These are just to the point, the highlights. We just want to keep stressing the regional nature of the money, that the need is across the state, and Public sector consultants has just been rock stars in gathering the data. So it's really been great. So these one pagers are meant to be easy on the eyes and informative, and we encourage you to use them. And these are being distributed to people in the House and the Senate, to their offices, their staffers across the state.
Well, Brian helped me send I guess he sent me a newsletter. Sent me some information that I sent out in a newsletter and got a lot of responses from. So I intend on definitely utilizing this packet of information as well.
You all know with anything, misinformation is the death knell of good public policy. So these are meant to just the facts.
Okay. Well,
and a lot of people haven't realized that the legislation has changed a lot from where it was a year ago. We've heard other people's voices and made appropriate changes to the legislation.
Okay.
So that's it.
Thank you. And so we'll now go to the next item on the agenda, the planning legislative update. So we just received one, and we're looking forward to continuing to receive the next one. And the next item on the agenda we'll go to is other matters. I know of none. The next meeting. Okay, I don't see the next meeting date on here. Can someone note it for me? What is it?
October 2nd, chairperson.
Okay, October 2nd will be our next meeting. And we will now go to the next item, which is adjournment. A motion is in order to adjourn.
I so move.
Been moved
Support.
and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Poshpeach, and everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Farewell.